Hi, welcome to Project Geospatial. I'm Adam Simmons at the GEOINT 2024 Symposium here in Orlando, Florida. And today at this segment, I have the pleasure of talking with two amazing people, Bill Young and Karyn Hayes-Ryan, which has been a while, Karyn, since we've had you on. But Karyn, for those who don't know, is one of our board members, and Bill, an awesome industry colleague. And we're going to talk about some of the industry trends and maybe experience within the industry as consultants in this sort of roundtable type of discussion.
Cool.
So how about, Bill, you're new to the table.
Yeah.
How about you introduce yourself
All right.
and we can learn a little bit more about your background.
All right. My name is Bill Young. I was 31 years at NGA and mostly acquisition. Final job there was actually as Karyn's deputy component acquisition executive. So I grew up in that industry, right? And then I spent the last 6 years working at NRO as the director of the Acquisition Center of Excellence. So I got that kind of picture as well. When I retired, just kind of want to do some part-time work and keep involved in the community. And Karyn graciously introduced me to Deepwater Point. And I joined them, and I'm also doing a little consulting on my own as well. Mostly for acquisition kind of activities, right? Helping people with, their source selections, things like that, their proposals and those kind of aspects. And I love coming here because reconnect with old friends and old colleagues, many of which who have left the government and are now working for industry partners and trying to help industry understand kind of what the government might need, that kind of thing.
Excellent. So with that breadth of experience, you've been to many GeoINTs before.
Been to a few, yeah.
And you've seen the change within the industry, just like Karyn has. So let's talk about some of those trends, right?
Okay.
Karyn, what would you say you've seen the most change with what we've had to deal with in the geospatial world?
So the changes really started about 5 or 6 years ago when it became a lot more of the commercial companies that were taking their wares and their products and their satellites and bringing them into the government space and into the intelligence community. That was one of the more exciting changes because instead of the government building, the government started buying.
Right.
And it was beneficial to the taxpayers, it was beneficial to the mission, it was beneficial to the industry. And you've really seen quite a growth of who considers themselves to be part of the geospatial industry.
Right. Okay. How about you?
It's really very similar, the same kind of thing where the commercial sector has really taken off. And a lot of that was deliberate by the government, right? When we worked through NEMA and some other organizations, we were building the digital age, hoping that commercial market would take over, spacecraft and everything else. And so that is really a result of kind of deliberate thought, really, when you think about it, right? And they really exploded. How it has exploded, I don't know if that was anybody's, guess, but it is amazing how big it is. And now with the AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, computer vision, those type activities, those will continue to move us forward.
So is that shift focusing on governments primarily managing their own constellations into the commercial sector and them relying on the services of commercial?
Yeah, that's a lot of it. There's always going to be some of these like exquisite, what they call them, capabilities that the government will need to kind of handle on their own, from security issues and things of that nature. But by and large, the commercial market has done so much. I mean, you see commercial SAR, all kinds of things that I would have never imagined growing up in the business.
And then how open now the analytics is on the outside now too. So it's not all done. I guess the emergence in the last 15 years of open source.
Yeah, it really has grown a lot in all sorts of IC agencies, not just at NGA. And not just with the geospatial community, but it is most prevalent right now, especially here at this event, with the geospatial community. And it's not just the satellite side, it's not just the analytics side, but it's all of the infrastructure and other commercial capabilities that were always homegrown, home-built in the different government agencies, where now you bring in a variety of different infrastructure providers, data center providers that with already existing capabilities.
Okay, a little change of pace in terms of how we think about the industry. We talked about progress and how much strides we made in successes and innovation over the last 10 years. Where do you think the industry has room to grow still?
Well, I think in the ATO process, the ability to get the right approved clearances and the right approved IT and capabilities to be able to go in and quickly convert from being a commercial company to working in the intelligence community, I think is one of the areas that the government and industry both need to do a little better, because I think it'll make things a lot faster to be able to bring them in. I know there's a lot of companies that are struggling to get into the intelligence community and are willing to do what they have to do, but just don't necessarily know what it is at the start of the process. That's one of the big areas.
I think one of the other areas is the government needs to understand, probably at large, not just the geospatial intelligence community, with all the kind of improvements in AI, machine learning, and all those things. It's going to take a lot of processing power, right? And so we're all into the cloud and all that kind of thing. But dollars associated with that really intensive processing, and we were talking to some folks earlier, is it flexible, scaling, and that kind of thing? Or how does that work for us? What does that model look like so that we're prepared in our budgetary process in the government to handle that, and they're prepared to make applications more efficient?
Right.
I'm going to double onto the budget piece, though, because a lot of the commercial companies don't understand the government budgeting process and don't necessarily understand, why am I not getting this lump sum right now? Understanding how a continuing resolution will affect their revenue and things like that.
Yeah.
So we've actually been doing that for a couple companies in the past few weeks, where they're not understanding how they get their money and why it's taking so long, and is the contract at risk.
Where do you think the disconnect is with companies who struggle with this? I mean, it's not nothing new.
But these are, again, companies that haven't been doing business with the
Oh,
government.
fair enough.
Yeah.
So is that a problem on the small business offices of the government agencies helping new companies learn about the process, or is there a barrier to entry that small businesses need to try and pick up themselves?
It's not just the small businesses.
Or even new bigger businesses
right. So
too.
even
Non-traditional.
Right.
non-traditional defense contractors don't have the experience.
Okay.
I mean, once they learn it, they understand it. Now, do they like it? I don't know, because you still have a large budget process that's wrapped up in unfunded requirements.
And that could be the timeline could be a financial killer for a lot of companies
Absolutely.
waiting for it.
Yeah, I will say the smaller businesses, the people we talk to, smaller group, easy to go from the account manager to the CEO. In larger businesses, it's actually a longer bureaucratic process who don't understand.
Yep.
And who have historically been able to say, I'm not getting the revenue, I'll cut off that market stream, not realizing the long-term investment that they have been making and how fruitful it will be if they continue to have some patience and start up that business line again.
Okay.
And is their management confident that the government, when they enter into a contract, will pay that contract? Maybe not the options, they might refuse the options, but they'll pay that base. But it depends on continuing resolutions and all kinds of other budgetary aspects as to when those companies get their money. So if they're expecting to book it this month, and the government says, well, I'm not, I can't fulfill that invoice till next month, you got to kind of be flexible with the government.
Well, as both of you identified, this is a big area where there's a lot of room to grow. How much improvement have you seen over the last 10 years in this area, or has it just remained as a constant area where there's struggle?
It's a constant struggle, but in administration times like we have today, it's a greater struggle because we have continuing resolutions and we don't have the steady funding streams going to the government agencies themselves. So
Yeah, you begin projects that are critical to particular missions, national security missions or whatever. They seem to find funding for those, right? Different monies and those kind of things. When those dry up, then it becomes, but you still kind of are reliant on those
Right.
capabilities. Where's that revenue stream coming from those contractors that expected it just to go on forever?
So what's your recommendation to non-traditional businesses to work their way through the system right now?
it's not so much working through the system as much as getting the knowledge to understanding. If the government has a contract, and they are taking your services, you will be paid. That's the biggest fear that they have, is that they won't get their revenue. And the government doesn't default on these kinds of activities, so they do have to have some patience. It's really getting to the decision makers at the most senior areas of those companies to let them see how things can play out.
Where can companies go right now to get the resources they need to learn more about how to do this better?
Well, our clients use Bill and I,
Right.
Rob, and other parts from our team to try to get that message up. But not all, we're not representing every company here, we're not
Right.
representing all of commercial.
But there's a lot of consultants that can help them do that. They also, I've seen them hire folks from the government, right, that have separated or retired, that understand those kind of things, to bring them in specifically for that role, right, to help them understand the budget process, how to get funding, how that funding stream works. That's not a bad idea to have those folks on your staff.
Right. In the medium, the large companies, that sounds like a great idea. For the small companies who are just emerging, how do you address that? Do you recommend that they focus on making sure that they have a stable revenue process so that they don't, they're not overly reliant on the time of the government?
That is really important.
Absolutely.
And also working with their small business offices.
Okay.
So NGA has a great small business office. Other agencies do as well. But you can go and say, what's happening? How does this work?
Yes.
And there are people there that will assist and walk you through the process and perhaps help influence that stream of revenue of how they'll come in.
Well, the government has to be more transparent with that too, right? It's a two-way street, right? And so we can't shut down conversations with folks that want to do business with us. I keep saying us, but the government can't shut down conversations too early. Everybody's got to learn this, and that way we get stronger, right?
Okay. Awesome. Well, I think we're going to wrap up. Any other final words of advice to, we'll call it businesses who want to get involved with the geospatial industry out there? We'll start with you.
I mean, these kind of events really help because you're networking with folks that are already there and others that are trying to do that, right?
So come to a symposium. Would you recommend a booth or right away, first timer? Just jump right in?
I would say maybe not a booth, but send some folks to kind of canvas what's going on at these kind of events, right? And it's not just, which is great, listen to the keynotes, listen to all those things, kind of understand the strategies, what the problem sets are and all that. But spend a lot of time in the exhibit hall, talking to other industry partners, talking to the government booth, right, with these questions and try to understand those kind of things. It's almost like a reverse RFI, if you will, but it's like in person, right, for our industry to kind of learn more about their partners and all the rest. And if you can afford it, consultants aren't bad to use as well who have been there, done that, to give you some advice along the way.
Yeah, and I don't think you have to start at the big symposia like this one. USGIF and other consortiums have smaller groups, have monthly meetings, monthly sessions to start to get the lay of the land. You can hear from the government at a variety of USGIF working groups. They'll come talk directly and support. So there's other ways to start, but you also must attend these big events, I think, to really get the traction you want and the sustainability.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the discussion. And talking about small business, actually non-traditional business and business in general, trying to enter the industry and your insights on the trends of GEOINT overall. So, awesome.
Thank you, man.
All right, thank you, Adam.
I'm Adam Simmons of Project Geospatial. We'll talk to everybody next time.